I suppose the Yowies were going to be an unexpected opposition today. We weren't too sure what they were going to throw at us or what they were going to bring, but I know the management that are involved with them, and I knew they'd have a competitive side, and that's why I wanted the fixture to go ahead. And I thought that's what we got. I thought the Yowies conducted themselves really well. If I'm being honest, the first 25 minutes of that game, I thought they were in control of the game. They were certainly controlling the tempo of the game, and they were being methodical, clinical in what they were doing. I challenged our players at half time to pick it up, which I felt we did. But again, I'm overall very, very pleased with the head out. I think we were certainly challenged today in certain areas of the field at certain times by the opposition, and that's a credit to those guys, because let's not forget, that the Yowies team have only been together a few days, and that's a credit to Darren and his support staff for putting that team together and actually getting them to be able to play the way they played today. It's pretty impressive. So I can only congratulate them on their efforts today as well.
You had, I'll try not to dominate as it used to be, a couple of players went off injured early in the first half.
Yeah.
Do you know what's...
Yeah, James Cunningham's got a foot injury, which is unfortunate. Like I said, we're just going to get that assessed, and we'll find out further what the extent of that injury is. Hopefully it's not going to be too long for us. I've already got the other 9 down as well, Hackers at the moment, but hopefully he'll be right next week. But as we saw tonight, we had to move Will Bartow there, the French half, back into 9, and I thought he did a decent job there for us when he went in there. So for me, he was the man of the match today. So just to get it shows we've got a little bit of strength and depth there, but ideally we do need to hopefully get Cano back on the field sooner rather than later.
And I thought the forwards made some very, very good yards. The final passing was probably not quite as good as you'd like.
Yeah, that's probably you're right there. I thought our execution of skill wasn't great today. We certainly created some opportunities at times, but we weren't clinical enough. And even early doors, that first 25 minutes, 30 minutes of the game, even just some of our core skills, just catch pass. Some of the passes were just going behind people and, just not where they needed to be. And some of the decisions too, at times of when to pass and where to pass, weren't great either. But again, that's the whole point of why you have these friendlies, You want to make sure you have a couple of good hit-outs ready for when round 1 comes, because you want to iron out all these little imperfections and make sure the players, like I said, start to get a feel for each other and how each other play. Because let's not forget, we have brought in 9 recruits this year, so there's 9 new faces in the squad. So again, it does take time for them to get to know each other. You can do so much on the training field, but you know more, you learn more about your team, certainly when it's an actual competition game.
You had that spell of needed some very strong defending in the first half, and it stood up really well, didn't it?
Yeah, I mentioned that to at half time. I was pleased in terms of, I thought our line speed got better as the half went on, and I thought our try line defence got really, really well, because the Yowies were coming at us. They were hitting us with all sorts of questions, and I was really pleased with that try line defence in the first half especially. But one thing I wasn't pleased with was I felt that the Yowies forwards were just going forward too easy. They're making too many metres, and they were finding their fronts too easy as well. We struggled to handle, I think, Big Reggie Saunders and Vai. I thought they did some real damage in the middle, and probably Darren might probably agree with that there. I thought they both had a good crack going forward for the Yowies and caused us a few problems.
And your forwards certainly in the first 25-30 minutes asked serious questions that didn't seem to get the right answers defensively. Would it be a little bit harsh to say the intensity dropped a bit after that?
Oh yeah, we've got a very young side, but I also think the conditions for us is very new as well. I think the depth is just a little bit short for the trip, but I think the guys did stand up really well. There was going to be a bit of a gap, but that's the whole experience about coming and being part of this great tour. I think the learning for these guys will be immense.
How do you think they found playing on a synthetic pitch?
I was just sort of getting a bit of a whisper in the shed as I come up to the truth, and I was saying very, very new experience, and something that I probably will never experience ever, because back home we play, that's a hockey field for us.
Yeah.
That's a fully field, so yeah, very new.
Because your defence came up far too quickly in the second half, and Will spotted it and just kept kicking you back into the corners with 2 40-20s.
Yeah, well, but that's also, I think, the young experienced guys that we had, we lost a very experienced centre. Nathan Merritt had to come off just through an injury had for a little while in his career now. And we had to put a young guy into the centre from the wing over to the other side. So, and that's where we got found out, unfortunately. And that was smart play, I think.
He's a French international.
Well,
he plays in the half, so
yeah,
he's there to spot those.
Absolutely, yeah.
Are any of your boys looking for contracts in the UK, perhaps, or is it
There is-
really just a?
No, there is quite a few, to the truth. A few young guys that were hopefully someone was looking at to include them in a contract. So yeah, they're very open.
You have to ask the man next to yourself.
I've done that when I met yesterday, and unfortunately it's not available yesterday here. So, but yeah, there is some very young guys looking for a contract.
Any names?
You're probably best to talk to the management than talking to me.
Yeah, good man. Good work, mate.